Wow, this story really surprised me from Newsweek. Young Trump voters like these are key to a 2020 victory. I noticed this story because I saw a tweet with this image, and I was really surprised to see a Newsweek cover, although I'm not sure if Newsweek exists, does it? I guess it does, with Isabel Brown putting on a MAGA hat. It says, "Do young voters hold the key to a Trump victory in 2020? And there's a quote, "He's patriotic, he's pro-America. He wants to bring back the American spirit, and he's not afraid to say it, and I'm all for that." So I saw this story, I thought it was interesting, and then I started reading. And sure enough, one of the things that drives young people to vote for Trump, particularly non-white people, is being called racial slurs, for instance. One of the first anecdotes is a young woman who says she was never heard a racial slur directed at her until she put on a MAGA hat. And isn't that, it's a story we hear all too often. When I was in Portland, there was a Proud Boys rally, and I heard Antifa white people screaming racial slurs at the right. There's video circulating of Antifa screaming racial slurs at police. We see it over and over again. If you want to convince people to vote for Donald Trump, this is how you do it. You socially ostracize them. You don't give them a choice, and you insult and berate them as soon as they ask you any questions. Congratulations, it's not doing what you think it's doing. But Newsweek tends to be pretty left-wing, so I was surprised to see this. Well, let's read the story and see what these young people have to say about why they would support Donald Trump and why this may be good news for the president. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you would like to support my work. There's a PayPal option, a crypto option, a physical ad. Just the best thing you can do is just share this video. YouTube de-ranks independent political commentary, especially this channel. But they can't de-rank your willingness to share this video if you like it. So if you think I do a good job, please consider sharing it on social media. But let's read the news. They start with, Stormy Rodriguez says she's never been called a racial epithet before. Growing up in Mission, Texas, just 70 miles from the Mexican border, the 21-year-old daughter of a single Mexican-American mother had what she calls a normal, pretty uneventful life in a heavily Hispanic part of the country. That changed one day in 2016 when she posted a picture of herself on Facebook wearing a red MAGA cap. The student at Texas State University said she was promptly bombarded with abuse from the Donald Trump hating left and called a variety of epithets, including, quote, a word I can't actually say on YouTube. Yes, a racial slur. At college, some of my classmates called me a race traitor, she says. Publicly supporting Donald Trump isn't easy for young voters, especially in the wake of the events in El Paso and Dayton. Well, the Dayton thing was a far leftist, so I don't know what they're trying to say with that. Pop culture derides Trump daily. So too does much of the mass media. Pro-Trump college students like Rodriguez say their teachers are almost uniformly hostile to Trump, and so are the majority of their fellow students. It takes a fair amount of backbone to be young and a Trump supporter, even in a GOP stronghold like Texas. But I will tell you what, and I hope you all remember this. When pop culture, when celebrities, when music, when it all smears the president and insults Trump supporters and conservatives, you're not stopping people from being conservative. You're putting a blanket over society so no one can see what's actually happening. It is a sea of Trump hats being covered by a bit of canvas, so when people look at the crowd, they don't see the supporters. You may convince people like this to hide their views, but I tell you what, when they go in the voting booth, nobody can see them, and they will press that button for the president for re-election. They say, but the more than a dozen young Trump supporters who spoke to Newsweek were firm in their commitment to the president and clear about their reasons. They don't consider Trump racist and reject the label themselves as well. Well, when you've got a young Hispanic woman with a Mexican-American mother being smeared and insulted with racial slurs, yeah, I think we know who the racists really are. They say they're sick of cancel culture. When critics on social media call for a boycott of someone who has said or done something deemed offensive and political correctness. We've had it shoved in our faces all day, every day, in school, and then from the pop culture. Isabel Brown, a graduate of Colorado State University, told Newsweek in July, they don't share the attraction to socialism that seems to be felt by many in their cohort, and Trump's unfiltered personality delights them. In 2015 and 16, I traveled to a ton of Trump rallies. I think I was at like 32 or something like that. When I talked to older people, they all said basically the same thing. Trump and Bernie were talking about bringing back factories and shutting down free trade agreements. Most people later on went for Trump because Bernie lost the nomination, but that was a big issue. Older guys, middle American, hey, we need our jobs back. But younger people, They said political correctness. They were sick and tired of the PC outrage culture, which has only gotten worse in the past few years. Whether or not they care about policy, it's irrelevant. They don't like cancel culture and political correctness. Bill Maher is right when he calls this stuff out. But look, man, young people like to laugh. They want to be free. They don't want to be constrained and beaten down. Let's read on. They say, they see themselves in the role traditionally played politically by the young. They are the rebels, the nonconformists, willing to stand up for what they believe in, opposition to the establishment. What they believe in opposition to the establishment. Only this time, the establishment on campus and in the broader society is a culture that demands lockstep obedience to what Brown calls far left ideas. I gotta say, it's amazing Newsweek ran this story. For whatever reason, she says, most people her age aren't rebellious and aren't even particularly thoughtful. They feel the need to adhere to a politically correct progressive agenda. In this environment, she argues, true rebellion is simply to say, I disagree. I think conservatives were expected to be quietly polite, and we expected people would be quietly polite in return. Now we've learned that unless you boldly fight for what you believe in, the culture and the country will look very different. And I completely agree. Young Trumpers are not a mere political curiosity. Voters age 18 to 29 are one of two demographics nationwide that may hold the key to Trump's re-election, according to Brad Parscale, Trump's 2020 campaign manager, who I might add has done a great job with selling Sharpies and plastic straws. They say that moderate, independent, and Republican women are the other group. The goal is not to win the young voter demographic outright. The campaign knows that won't happen, but rather to limit the margin with a Democratic nominee in key states, and in so doing, perhaps tip the election to Trump. I think it's really funny how many celebrities have become overly woke. I was just listening to this Taylor Swift song, which it's got like a caricature of the right. I feel like a lot of these views are based in the 90s, and they're trying to still make it seem like Trump's base are the moralistic Christians of the late 90s and 2000s, when in fact they're very, very different. I recently made a tweet about Occupy Wall Street and how I got my start there, and it was 8 years to this day that it started. And a lot of people who commented were critical of the left, but supportive of Occupy's initial ideals, and talked about how the wokeness corrupted Occupy Wall Street. It's true. During Occupy, there were conservatives and libertarians very early on. They quickly were pushed out. So the reason I bring this up is that for whatever reason, we're seeing the new generation refuse to push back, refuse to rebel, and join in whatever the celebrities say. It's weird, isn't it? I guess whatever is cool is considered what you have to do. And if Taylor Swift says so, you must do it. But again, I bring up, the past stuff like, the old caricatures on Occupy because, when I watch this Taylor Swift video, it's the one that's called You Gotta Calm Down. It's got depictions of the right that are like caricatures of people from the late 90s. And it's actually really offensive. I'm surprised. I mean, not like the video should be taken down or anything, but it shows Trump supporters, or I shouldn't say Trump supporters, it shows the right, the anti-LGBT people as like rednecks and stuff like that, which again, it's a caricature. But anyway, I digress. Let's read on. They say, that's close to what happened in 2016, which is winning holding back young people from going Democrat. Though not because of any sophisticated effort by the Trump campaign. Hillary Clinton got only 55% of the youth vote, down from the 60% Barack Obama won in 2012. Yep, she had more young people, she would have won. Many young people did not, to put it mildly, view Clinton as an inspiring candidate. Nope, they viewed Bernie Sanders as the rebel, the outsider. And I can attest to that. And when he had it taken from him, the establishment won. Bernie today is the establishment. I'm not interested. He's flipped on his positions. So anyway, I digress. The point is, we're talking about Trump youth. They say, in what is likely to be another close election, if Trump can do better with young people than he did last time, this could be critical, says Mary Snow, a polling analyst at the Quinnipiac University Presidential Polling Organization. There are plausible scenarios in which it could be decisive. The Trump campaign won 37% of the youth vote in 2016, in a campaign that was shambolic and underfunded. It will not be this time. The Trump 2020 has already raised more than $125 million, and the campaign is making a concerted effort to target young voters in battleground states. Parscale, who headed Trump's digital media effort in 2016, says this will happen via social media, his forte, but also with traditional boots on the ground type organizing. You know what? I'm going to stop here. They show a bunch of people, I guess, Isabel Brown, I think, is relatively prominent. I'm not super sure. I think she's done videos for like Daily Caller or whatever. But you get the point. They've focused on a dozen or so young people. But I want to make one final point on this. Trump might win young people. And I don't think in the end, the bulk of those young people will be swayed necessarily by ad campaigns or boots on the ground. In fact, Trump doesn't have to do anything. There was an article from Vice I read the other day that claimed kids putting PewDiePie on their desktop backgrounds was an indication they had been brainwashed by white nationalists in the far right. Trump doesn't have to do anything. The left has done it to themselves. So why do you see all these young people? They just want to laugh at jokes. They want to watch, cartoons and laugh at them and not be told they're bad people for, not. You don't have to criticize a person. You could make an off-color joke and just watch a video of it, and all of a sudden you're the bad guy. Nobody wants to live under a boot. So when the left comes with their cultural homogenization, don't be surprised when young people say, I'm going to rebel. That's what young people do. All right, I'm going to leave it there. For the most part, I just wanted to read a little bit of this because I find it really fascinating that Newsweek ran this story of all outlets. It does seem like a lot of left-wing outlets are trying to flirt around with Trump supporter rhetoric. We know CNN's doing it. It's an old story I covered before. They're putting Fox emojis next to stories they think Fox would cover. They get it. They're the outliers. They're the dorks. Wrong word. I don't know. Someone's going to get mad at me for that. Stick around. A couple more segments coming up in a few minutes, and I will see you all shortly.